Okay, this thing on? Hey y'all. Hey vlog. Hey buds. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everything's going good for you. So I just finished reading another book. It's called The Happiness Makeover. Teach Yourself to Enjoy Every Day. And it's by M.J. Ryan, or from M.J. Ryan. So that book is pretty popular. It has some birds on the front, some birds on the back, and some other quotes from people who are referenced in the book. So let's go through and do a quick review. It's pretty good. I like this one. I enjoyed it. So it starts out with some praise for the happiness makeover. See at the start. And these are just a bunch of quotes from people. So I'll go through this here, the front, the title page, quote from Dale Carnegie. I just actually did a book review from Dale Carnegie, so you can check my other video for that one. Then get to the contents page. So I'll go through it quickly, just hopefully it focuses in. So it's broken up into 5 parts, and it goes up to 53 chapters. So I'll show you here. It goes up to 53, broken up into 5 parts, up to 5 parts. So part 1, you can be happier. Part 2, what's standing in your way, question mark. This or that. Then we get to chapter 1, Kina Hurrah, Poo Poo Poo. What's your happiness myth? Number 2, chapter 2, is your brain wired to see danger everywhere? Yes or no? Chapter 3, do you motivate yourself through discontent? Yes or no? Chapter 4, what's so bad about getting your hopes up? This or that. You know what I might do? I'll show you what the chapters look like, because I'm going to be revisiting them anyway, so I'll just let us skip along, skip forward here, save some time, because these vlogs tend to take a little bit of time when you're reading through everything. So I'll just revisit that when I get to the chapter. So part 1, you can be happier. This is what it looks like, just so you have an idea. It's a pretty good looking book. So on there, you have a quote from James A. Kitchens. What would happen to us if we really fell in love with life, question mark? How would our lives change if we really thought, dots, that reality is fabulous, dots, question mark? Would we be fools of whom other people take advantage, comma, or would we find that life is exciting, dot, or period, joyful and wonderful, question mark, yes or no? That's by James A. Kitchens. This book has a lot of question marks in there, so I'll just point those out where I see them. So this book is about happiness. So it starts off with the author talking about who's a mom talking to an adopted daughter, and they're having a conversation. So it starts out with quotes: "A hard day, huh, Anna?" I said, or she said. "What was going on? What do you want?" She looked up at me and wailed, "I just want to be happy. Don't we all? No matter who we are or what our circumstances, isn't that what we each long for? Happiness, the experience of the sheer joy of being alive. Indeed, it is such an important shared value that the Declaration of Independence identifies its pursuit as one of only 3 foremost options. And we all want it so badly, but like Anna on that December day, so many of us don't seem to know how to experience it on a constant basis." That's true. Happiness is very important. Then we get a whole bunch of stories in here. So we get one that says, "We've trained ourselves to think if only. If only our spouse would come home from work earlier, we'd be happy. If only we'd make $20,000 more a year, we'd be happy. If only we could be a stay-at-home mom, we'd be happy. We spend our time trying to make our if-onlys come true, only to discover that even if we do achieve them, a new if-only arrives. That was certainly true for me for most of my first 40 years. I was your average negative person. I would religiously catalog all that was wrong with my life and spend my time and energy trying to create a happier tomorrow. But when getting what I was sure would make me happy didn't happen, or independence, money, success, I realized that I'd been looking in all the wrong places. So I decided to do a happiness makeover. This 12-year process had led me, or the author, to write a series of books on the virtues of kindness, gratitude, generosity, patience, and self-trust as ways to be happy. And now to look at happiness head on. I've studied happy people, read all the books, done a lot of soul searching, worked hard on myself, and offered a helping hand to my clients, to all these clients. So that's how the book starts. Let's skip forward, skip along. So it's taken 50 years of work to get here for this author to create this book. Maybe that's why she's written this book, so that others won't have to struggle so long, so that more of us can answer a resounding yes, so that happiness can blossom in its fullness for ourselves and for those we encounter on our path. Happiness is its own reward, but it doesn't stop there. Happy people are accepting of themselves, so they don't spend precious time in regret. They accept others too, so are free to love people as they are, rather than expending energy trying to do a repair job on everything and everyone in sight. They look positively to the future, so they don't spend a lot of time in worry or fear. They are engaged in life as a wonderful adventure in which they are here to give their best. The zest with which they encounter life is contagious. People are drawn into their orbit, and success seems to be attracted as well. They're healthier too. A study reported recently in the Journal of Neurology found that happy people are less likely to develop any disease. Studies have also found that folks who are happy are less likely to die prematurely or even develop colds. So that's an interesting point. So I wonder how true it is, how accurate it is, but it's an interesting point. So it goes on to say, in a very real sense, happiness is the ultimate makeover. Why else would we spend money and time on fixing our houses, our bodies, our relationships, except that we want to be happier? ? Rather than trying to shore up baggy eyelids or redo mismatched furniture in an attempt to experience greater overall satisfaction and enjoyment, why not go directly to the source? Cultivate the mental and emotional outlooks that will generate a sense of joyfulness, independent of couch fabric or lipstick wear? ? As I studied and practiced, I've come to understand that happiness is a feeling that arises as a result of thoughts we choose to hold and actions we choose to take. To increase those good thoughts. In this way, we think our way to happiness. That's a good point. So skim along here, skip forward, skip on. So another story here that the author talks about. And these are kind of long. So what I'm gonna do is just highlight the ones I feel like are very important, and then skim along. So another story here, it says, before psychology got interested in happiness, about 10 years ago, this topic was left to philosophers. Since Aristotle, philosophers have distinguished between hedonistic happiness. Happiness is a feeling of pleasure or contentment, and eudaimonistic happiness, which arises out of satisfaction with one's actions and character. Recently, positive psychology has made a similar distinction between pleasure and gratification, noting that since pleasure is fleeting and gratification longer lasting, it is better to pursue gratification to experience quote-unquote authentic happiness. The distinction may be intellectually useful, but I think it fails to take into account the uniqueness of each person, and therefore what each of us may need. Take me for instance. I knew a lot about happiness that comes from living your strengths and values, what Martin Seligman calls the path of gratification. But until recently, I knew precious little about enjoying my life moment to moment. The pleasure path. What I want to encourage you to do, dear reader, is to understand which of the paths to happiness you need to pursue in your own makeover and to cultivate the thinking that will lead you there. And then we get a quote from Charles Caleb Colton. So there are many paths to happiness. It says, happiness, that grand mistress of ceremonies in the dance of life, impels us through all its mazes and meanderings, but leads none of us by the same route. So Fred, a harried marketing executive, contacted me, the author, because I guess they wanted to be happier. So they chatted about what he could do to make his life feel better. But I could tell we weren't getting anywhere. So he kept focusing on his problems and issues, an unresponsive boss, children who were struggling in school. So I asked him to make a study of the happy people he knew, M dash. What was different between them and him, question mark, M dash. And then report back on what he observed. So 2 weeks later, Fred called. People who are happy are more appreciative, he told her. They take action on the things that they can in their lives and don't worry about the rest. And they smile. So that's what that story is about. Interesting. Let us skip along here. So I'll read the next part. This might take a little while, but I'm trying to keep this under half an hour, 25 minutes or so. There's another client came to the author, same issue. I gave her the assignment and she came back saying happy people have more fun. They take time to play, so I helped her figure out how she could do more of that. A third person said that happy people are kinder and more generous than she. A fourth reported that happy people are passionately consumed by meaningful work. I've given the happy people study to dozens of folks, and lo and behold, everyone discovers something different. What I've come to see is that each of us notices exactly what we need to learn, and that's why we notice it. So rather than giving too much credence to what the research says, or taking anyone else's word for what creates happiness, conduct a study for yourself and pay attention to what you discover. That will be the key to your own successful makeover. So that's an interesting topic. Then we get the topic here, a happiness makeover is like training a puppy, and a quote from Marcus Aurelius Antoninus. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Therefore guard accordingly, semicolon, and take care of that you entertain no notions unsuited to virtue and reasoned nature. That's an interesting topic. We get another story here. So, an illustrated story. My friend and I were lost on a mountaintop in Utah. I began instantly worrying, how will we ever get down, question mark? What if we freeze to death up here, question mark? My friend was looking around saying things like, look at that fabulous scenery. Isn't it breathtaking? Same event, but she has a left prefrontal tilt, and I have a right. Therefore, in precisely the same circumstances, she is happy and I am not. Here's the great news. For anyone whose mind goes to the gloomy right, with practice you can create a left tilt. First, you have to catch yourself in the negative, habitual thinking. Then you have to choose to think about things in peaceful, optimistic ways. Over time, you'll be doing it without thinking about it. You do this just like training the puppy. When you find yourself going down the bad old road, you simply stop. And without beating yourself up, choose the other path. You're not trying to get rid of the old habit, M dash. It's a deeply grooved neurological path. What you're doing is building a pathway to a new habit each time you stop and make a choice. Many people have gotten half of this message. So that's an interesting story, interesting point and topic. So this approach of focusing on the positive is not a plea to ignore or deny the challenges, sorrows, and grief in our lives. They are real. And it doesn't mean that we feel fabulous all the livelong day. But the possibility of experiencing the joy of being alive, of appreciating what we can in our circumstances, of letting go of unnecessary burdens and giving to others is also real. We have what we need to be happy, and every moment we can choose to focus our attention on, therefore, how we feel. The difficulties of our lives, we get a lot of our mental airtime and sap a great deal of our life force. How about giving equal time to happiness? Question mark. So this or that. Then we get to the next part, which is chapter 2 or part 2. What's standing in your way? So I'll just show. It says has a good quote, talk about some Buddhist knowledge there. I'll just show you that. So each of us has particularly mental habits that keep us from experiencing the maximum happiness we could feel at any given moment. So Chan Buddhists call this habit energies. These are our unique ways of interfering with the natural ability we all possess to experience both the exhilaration and contentment that we call happiness. In this section, we examine how you might be blocking joy available to you in your daily life. And I offer suggestions as to how to work with some of the most common interferences, including discontent, worry, regret, envy, disappointment, grudge, perfectionism, and conflict. By working with what's standing in our way, we clear the road to discover the happiness hidden in our ordinary days. So it's a very interesting topic. Very interesting. So let's skip along here. And we finally get to chapter 1, Hina Hara. Right, poo poo poo, what's your happiness myth? I'll just show you what it looks like. Let's skip forward. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip past some of these, skip past it. So again, there's another story in here. It says, I once gave a talk on happiness at Old St. Patrick's Cathedral in Chicago. And a wry gentleman with an Irish brogue and his tongue firmly in his cheek commented after my talk, comma, I see the Dalai Lama has written a book called The Art of Happiness. We Irish Catholics have been writing the book of suffering for centuries. As a consequence of this training, I was very good at deferring happiness, although I had a bit more trouble with the suffering in silence part. I'll show you that here. It's a quote from Dalai Lama. Let's skip along here. Let us skip along. So we get to chapter 2. Is your brain wired to see danger everywhere? Yes or no? That's page number 22. Then we get to chapter 3. Do you motivate yourself through discontent? Question mark, yes or no? And we get a quote by Osho. You create issues so that you can feel that life is at great work, a growth, and you have to struggle hard. That's from Osho. That's page 25. It talks about the author's husband's name is Don. So Don. When Don and I first started living together, let's just show you that here. Okay. It was so easy that I thought something was seriously wrong. I was used to relationships that were full of drama and struggle, where we worked, quote unquote, on issues. Not that the work got us anywhere, but we felt we were trying. And I spent all of my mental energy on trying to fix the other person. What was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to do all day? I asked my friend Daphne, if not work on or worry about my relationship, question mark. Enjoy the peacefulness, she advised. And if you need something to fill in the time, take up knitting. So that's an interesting story, interesting topic. So let us skip along here. Okay. Okay, we get to another point. It says, discontent is also fueled by attention of the media, the educational system, psychology, our families, on what's wrong with us rather than what's right. Rather than celebrating our strength and gifts, we tend to focus on all our foibles and failings and those around us, and therefore, and therefore, view life as a self-improvement project. That's an interesting point. So when we motivate ourselves through happiness, life gets easier. It flows. We're not so busy fighting reality, but instead spend our time enjoying what we can about the way it is. Recently, I was talking to a young friend who got married a while ago. She was having in-law problems. Her husband's family had a looser sense of planning than she, and she was constantly frustrated by their impromptu behavior. I doubt you are going to change this entire family system, I commented, but you could spend a lot of time of your life trying. Will that make you happy? No, she replied. If I want to be happy, the best thing to do would be to volunteer to be the planner and then not get so caught up in their following my plans to the letter. That's an interesting point, interesting topic. So let us skip along here. Okay. You get to chapter 4. What's so bad about getting your hopes up? This or that. Skip. That's page 28. Then chapter 5. Are you envious of others? You get a Yiddish saying. One always thinks others are happy. That's page 31. Yiddish quote there. Let us skip along, okay? Then chapter 6, is your head full of negative self-talk? Yes or no? Skip onward. Chapter 7, are you caught up in the never-ending desire for more stuff? Yes or no? That's page 36. Then page 39, chapter 8, do you need to give up grudges? Yes or no? You get another Dale Carnegie quote. Okay, let's skip along. Chapter 9, do you expect life to be fair? Yes or no? Yes or no? That's page 42. Then chapter 10, is worry a constant companion? Yes or no? That's page 45. Then chapter 11, do expectations get in your way? Yes or no? Yes or no? And that's page 47. Then chapter 12, are you focused on the closed door? Yes or no? That's page 50. You get a quote by Helen Keller. So I think it's a journalist, a fiction and a fiction writer. So we just skip along here, okay? So there's another quote here. I'll just read another story here that I'll just read. It says, the musician Julio Iglesias, for instance, wanted to be a professional athlete. He took up the guitar only after he was temporarily paralyzed while playing soccer. The artist James Whistler took up painting as a treatment for depression after he flunked out of West Point and had to give up his dream of becoming a soldier. Framing our experience in terms of open and closed doors helps us not feel like failures and asks us to engage passionately with what life is calling us to do next. That's an interesting point, the story about Julio Iglesias. See that there? Let's skip along. So chapter 13, it's titled, do you suffer from regret? Yes or no? Then you have a quote by Sophocles. The greatest griefs are those we cause ourselves. Sophocles. Okay, let's skip along. Chapter 14, does perfectionism have you in its grips? Yes or no? That's page 56. Chapter 15, do you always have to be right? Yes or no? That's page 59. Chapter 16, do you need to adjust your happiness set point? Yes or no? Page 62. Then we get it's kind of a long quote. So let's try and save some time here. Keep it short, sweet, and simple. So I'll just read the story. So the author mentions someone that she read. So then I read Dr. Susan C. Vaughn's book, Half Empty, Half Full, and there was the answer. It turns out that if all goes well during the first year of life, through interactions with our primary caretakers, we learn to experience and amplify positive emotions such as elation, and pleasure. Eye contact, tossing in the air, tickling, smiling, and laughing together, M-. Through such activities, the mother senses the baby's affective state, meets and matches their mood where it is at the moment, then nudges the baby's mood into a slightly more expansive, joyful place by conveying a slightly broader, positive response. It's talking about someone in pregnancy during the pregnancy period, or during the time of pregnancy time and process. So chapter 17, let's skip along here. Chapter 17, okay, we get is what about biochemistry? Question mark this or that. That's page 65, biochemistry. Then we get to part 3, activating daily happiness. And we get a quote from Margaret Bonanno. And it says, "It is only possible to live happily ever after on a day-to-day basis." So I'll show you what that looks like, part 3. It's a good looking page too for within the book. See Margaret Bonanno. Okay, so we just skip. Okay, let's skip along. So we got another story topic here. So I'll just read through what the author shares. We only have to compare two people in the exact same circumstances, M-, one happy, one not, to know just how true Hugh Downs' comment is. But no matter what our negative mental habits up till now, we can cultivate the thoughts and behaviors that promote feeling happier on a daily basis. That's what this section provides, M-. The best set of practices I've learned to create the neurological pathway to your left prefrontal cortex, where the experience of happiness, satisfaction, contentment, fulfillment resides. So that's an interesting story point topic. Okay, so let's skip along. Let's skim along. So chapter 18 is recognize that your happiness is your own responsibility. Got a quote there. Chapter 19 is remember you are not responsible for anyone else's happiness, M-, including your kids. So that's page 74. We've got another quote there by Sidney Madwed. And it says, no one is really responsible to make someone else happy, no matter what most people have been taught and accept as true. So that's kind of true. Like, you can't control somebody else's happiness. It's a quote by Sidney. That's good. So let us skip along, okay? Chapter 20, it says, know that everyone wants to be happy. And we get a quote from the Dalai Lama. It says, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. So that's from the Dalai Lama. It says, interesting topic. So let us skip along. That's page 77. We got some other quotes from like St. Augustine of Hippo in here. But to save some time, I'm gonna skip some of these and get another quote from Buddha in here. So I'll show you those. Got St. Augustine of Hippo quote in there. You have Buddha quote in there as well. So I'll skip along here. So chapter 21 says find ways to use your full powers. That's page 80. Chapter 22 is before freaking out, wait for the end of the story. That's page 83. Chapter 23, when faced with an obstacle, change, leave, or allow with grace. And we get a quote from Sarah Jordan. It says, every day give yourself a good mental shampoo. And that's page 86. Show you that here. Can you see it? Okay. Focused. Chapter 23, quote from Sarah Jordan. You see that? Okay, so let us skip along. So chapter 24 is figure out what really matters to you on page 89, and we get a quote from Ayn Rand. Chapter 25 is shine the flashlight on what's right. That's page 92. Chapter 26 is to touch with 10,000 joys. Be willing to touch the 10,000 sorrows. That's page 95. And we get a quote from Carl Jung. The word happiness would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. This Carl Jung quote there. Fairly popular psychologist. I think some people have heard of him. So let's skip along. Okay, so chapter 27 is Be Happy for Everyone Else's Sake, page 98. Chapter 28 is Learn to Think Optimistically, page 100. Chapter 29 is Give Yourself a quote-unquote why to live, page 103 or 103. Chapter 30 is Expand Your Notion of Love, and we get a quote from William Blake on page 106. It says, "We are put on earth for a little space, that we may learn to bear the beams of love." That's from William Blake. Just show you what that looks like here. That's chapter 30. What page is that? 106. So let's just skip along. Okay. So chapter 31 is Revel in Life's Simple Pleasures. And we get a quote from Charles Spurgeon. It says, "It is not how much we have, but how much we enjoy that makes us happy." That's Revel, chapter 31. Revel in Life's Simple Pleasures. Okay, so let us skip along. So chapter 32, it says, Find ways to enjoy your work. And we get a quote from Thomas Edison. "I never did a day's work in my life. It was all fun." That's page number 112. Skip along. Chapter 33, it says, Lose yourself in something. That's page 116. Chapter 34, it says, Make your peace with money. And we get a quote from Benjamin Franklin and Albert Camus. So Benjamin Franklin says, "Money never made a man happy yet, nor will it. Instead of its filling a vacuum, it makes one. If it satisfies one want, it doubles and trebles that want another way." That's Benjamin Franklin. And then Albert Camus says, "It is a kind of spiritual snobbery that makes people think they can be happy without money." I'll show you those. That's chapter 34, page 119. See those quotes there. So that's interesting stuff. So, okay, so let us skip along. And another interesting point in this chapter says, "Yet, as anyone who has been extremely poor will tell you, Camus is right too. We all need the basics of food, shelter, and healthcare. And without them, our lives can be pretty bleak." That's page 120. Then chapter 35, Realize we aren't meant to be happy all the time. And we get a quote from Kathleen Norris. It says, "When you are unhappy, is there anything more maddening than to be told that you should be contented with your lot?" Question mark, yes or no. Kathleen Norris. So, okay, so let us skip along. So chapter 36, Remember you always have choices. That's page 125. And we get a quote from Neil Peart. "If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice." That's true. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 37, Do you need a nice rest? Question mark, yes or no. And we get a quote from Gary McDarby. "Life catches up with you sometimes." That's true. It's true. So chapter 38 is Expand Your Happiness Portfolio. And we get a quote from another psychologist named Sigmund Freud, who I think some people have heard of. "Just as a cautious businessman avoids investing all his capital in one concern, so wisdom would probably admonish us also not to anticipate all our happiness from one quarter alone." That's chapter 38, page 131, by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is an interesting writer and doctor in the field of psychology. I've gone through some stuff there. So, okay, let us skip along. So chapter 39, Practice Gratefulness. And we get a quote from an anonymous. "In our daily lives, you must see that it is not happiness that makes us grateful, but gratefulness that makes us happy." That's page 134. That's true for some people, but not for everyone. Then we get to chapter 40, Get Out of Yourself. It's page 137. Chapter 41, Accept the Duty of Delight. Page 139. Chapter 42, Take a Hormonal Happiness Shower. And we have a quote in here by Dr. Howard Murphy. On page 142, it says, "It is impossible to walk rapidly and be unhappy." Page 142. So take a hormonal happiness shower. You see that there? It's pretty good. Okay, let us skip along. So chapter 43, it says, "Shine where you are." Page 144. And we get a quote by William Cowper. "The only true happiness comes from squandering ourselves for a purpose." That's from William Cowper. Interesting. And chapter 44, Become a Good Finder, on page 46. So it talks about, so first we get a quote from an award-winning teacher named Hal Urban to all his students. It says, "Who has good news, question mark? Who has something good to say, question mark?" That's the quote on page 146. And then we talk about Zig Ziglar, the author. It says Zig Ziglar is one of the most popular motivational speakers and authors in the United States. His is a rag to riches story of being the 10th child in a family of 12 during the Depression. His father died when he was 5, but he later became one of the top salespeople in the country. In his book, See You at the Top, he describes a study of 100 very successful people who ranged in age from the 20s to the 70s. Coming from a diversity of backgrounds, they only had one thing in common. They were all good finders, searching for the good in other people, in every situation. So that's page 146 and 147, about Zig Ziglar. Okay, so let us skip along. So we get to chapter 45, it's named Keep Frustrations in Perspective. And we get a quote from Cicero that says, "A happy life consists in tranquility of mind." That's an interesting point. I think that's someone from like Roman times or so, somewhere around there, not from modern times. Anyway, skip along. Okay, so chapter 46 is Find Your Tribe, on page 151, and we get a quote from David White. "There's no house like the house of belonging." That's David White. Okay, so let's skip along here. So chapter 47 is Make a List of What You Enjoy About Yourself. And we get a quote from St. Augustine that says, "Men go abroad to wander at the height of the mountains, at the huge waves of the sea, at the long courses of the rivers, at the vast compass of the ocean, at the circular motion of the stars, and they pass by themselves without wondering." That's from St. Augustine. Chapter 47. Okay. Page 154. We'll move on. So chapter 48, we get Do an Integrity Check. Chapter 49, Stretch Yourself, page 159. Then we get another quote from Dr. Smiley Blanton. It says, "The truth is that all of us attain the greatest success and happiness possible in this life whenever we use our native capacities to the greatest extent." That's Dr. Smiley Blanton. I think I've heard of him. Gotta look through the books and see what they wrote. So, okay, so let us skip along. So chapter 50, chapter 50 says, Cultivate Sensibility. And we get a quote by Iris Murdoch. And it says, "People from a planet without flowers would think we must be mad with joy the whole time to have such things about us." That's Iris Murdoch, chapter 50. So that's interesting quote. I think they're into nature, page 161. Then we get to chapter 51, Take the Actions You Can. And we get a quote from Isaac Bashevis Singer. "We have to believe in free will. We got no choice." That's page 164, chapter 51. Isaac. Okay, let us skip along. So chapter 52, Make Someone Else Happy. And then he has a quote from Louis L. Mann. It says, happiness is a perfume which you cannot pour on others without getting a few drops on yourself. I got a few drops on yourself, but okay, chapter 53 is what are you waiting for, question mark, this or that. And we get a quote from Lao Tzu here. That's interesting. Then we get to part 4, 22 instant happiness boosters. You see here, 22 instant happiness boosters. You see the picture of the bird. So that's interesting. Let us skip along. And part 5, loving your life. And we get a quote from Derek Walcott. It says, sit, feast on your life. You can see there another picture of the bird and that quote there from that person, that individual. So, okay, so let us skip along. Then we get to the acknowledgements. Get to the bibliography. I believe there are 41 references or sources listed in this section for this book that the author used. Okay. Then we get about the author and a read to our readers section. The empty page, and that's the whole book. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very useful information in here. And I liked the way the design of the book was. So I spent a little bit more time on it. So that's the Happiness Makeover. Teach Yourself to Enjoy Every Day by M.J. Ryan. And that's the author of Attitudes of Gratitude and the Power of Patience. That's a really good one. So if you have some time, I recommend you pick this one up. Give it a read. Let me know what you think. Other than that, have a good one.